The Tempest, Act 3, Scene 3, lines 53 to 110. In this section, Ariel reveals the wrong that was done to Prospero. Let us listen to the audio.
Thunder and lightning. Enter Ariel, like a harpy, claps his wings upon the table, and, with a quaint device, the banquet vanishes.
You are three men of sin, whom destiny, that hath to instrument this lower world and what is in it, the never-surfeited sea hath caused to belch up you, and on this island, where man doth not inhabit, you mongst men being most unfit to live. I have made you mad, and even with such like valour men hang and drown their proper selves.
Alonso, Sebastian, etc. draw their swords.
You fools! I and my fellows are ministers of fate. The elements of whom your swords are tempered may as well wound the loud winds, or with bemocked-at stabs kill the still-closing waters, as diminish one dowel that's in my plume. My fellow ministers are like invulnerable. If you could hurt, your swords are now too massy for your strengths, and will not be uplifted. But remember, for that's my business to you, that you three from Milan did supplant good Prospero, exposed unto the sea which hath requited him and his innocent child, for which foul deed the powers delaying, not forgetting, have incensed the seas and shores, yea, all the creatures against your peace. Thee of thy son, Alonso, they have bereft, and do pronounce by me lingering perdition, worse than any death can be at once, shall step by step attend you and your ways, whose wraths to guard you from, which here in this most desolate isle else falls upon your heads, is nothing but heart sorrow and a clear life ensuing.
He vanishes in thunder. Then, to soft music, enter the shapes again, and dance, with mocks and mouths, and carrying out the table.
Bravely the figure of this harpy hast thou performed, my Ariel, a grace it had devouring. Of my instruction hast thou nothing bated in what thou hadst to say. So with good life and observation strange, my meaner ministers their several kinds have done. My high charms work, and these mine enemies are all knit up in their distractions. They now are in my power. And in these fits I leave them, while I visit young Ferdinand, whom they suppose is drowned, and his and mine loved darling.
Exit above.
In the name of something holy, sir, why stand you in this strange stare?
Oh, it is monstrous, monstrous! Methought the billows spoke and told me of it. The winds did sing it to me, and the thunder, that deep and dreadful organ pipe, pronounced the name of Prosper. It did base my trespass. Therefore my son in those is bedded, and I'll seek him deeper than e'er plummet sounded, and with him there lie mudded.
Exit.
But one fiend at a time. I'll fight their legions o'er.
I'll be thy second.
Exeunt Sebastian and Antonio.
All three of them are desperate. Their great guilt like poison given to work a great time after, now gins to bite the spirits. I do beseech you that are of suppler joints, follow them swiftly, and hinder them from what this ecstasy may now provoke them to.
Follow, I pray you.
Let's now take the text in detail. In the last session, we saw Prospero's spirits bringing in this mighty banquet amidst hungry men. And Antonio and Sebastian ready to eat, but Alonso says he does not want to eat. And finally, after being convinced, they sat down at meal. And soon there is thunder and lightning. Ariel enters. This is now pathetic fallacy. What is going on in Ariel is being portrayed by violent scenes in nature. Like a harpy, clasps his wings upon the table, and with a quaint device the banquet vanishes. So he comes as a harpy, a monstrous bird, and he grips the table and with a strange kind of command, the whole banquet vanishes. And this is what he says to the men, the frightened men. Of course, this is an important paragraph where Ariel reveals what the context of their shipwreck is. Because the injustice that is committed to Prospero, these events have ensued. So this is what Ariel says. You are three men of sin, whom destiny that hath to instrument this lower world, and what is in it, the never surfeited sea hath caused to belch up you. And on this island, where man doth not inhabit, you amongst men, being most unfit to live. So now the whole paragraph is addressed to Alonso, Antonio, and Sebastian. And he says, the three of you are sinners. The destiny made the sea belch you up onto this island, where no man live, since none of you deserve to live, because you have done some great injustice. I have made you mad, and even with such like valor men hang and drown their proper selves. This says, I've driven you crazy, and many people are driven to kill themselves in this kind of desperation. Alonso, Sebastian, and company draw their swords. As soon as this happens, this voice is heard immediately. As a self-defense, these people draw their swords to defend themselves. And Ariel says, you fools, I and my fellows are ministers of fate. The elements of whom your swords are tempered may as well wound the loud winds, or with be mocked at stabs kill the still closing waters. As diminish one dowel that's in my plume, my fellow ministers are like invulnerable. It says, listen, you fools, my fellow harpies, my fellow ministers, my fellow creatures, and I carry out fate's orders. We are made up of that fate. Your swords are useless against us. You would be more successful swinging them at the empty air or stabbing at water than trying to cut off even one of my feathers. Plume is feather. And he says, my two companions are just as invulnerable as I am. If you could hurt, your swords are now too massy for your strength and will not be uplifted. He says, even if you had the power to hurt us, you would find your swords far too heavy to lift. So they are under the spell of Prospero's magic. But remember, he says, he carries on, Ariel carries on, he says, but remember, for that's my business to you, that you three from Milan did supplant good Prospero, exposed unto the sea, which hath requited him and his innocent child, for which foul deed the powers delaying, not forgetting, have incensed the seas and shores, yea, all the creatures against your peace. He says, but remember, and that's my business to tell you, that in Milan the three of you stole Prospero's throne and threw him and his innocent child into the sea. And that sea is trying to take revenge on you, to punish you for this horrible crime. The higher powers, although delaying but not forgetting about it, have stirred up the seas and all the creatures of earth against you. Thee of thy son Alonso they have bereft, and do pronounce by me lingering perdition, worse than any death can be at once, shall step by step attend you and your ways, whose wrath to guard you from which here in this most desolate isle else falls upon your heads, is nothing but heart sorrow and a clear life ensuing. It says, they have taken your only son from you, Alonso, and they have ordered me to destroy you slowly in a way worse than sudden death could ever be. I'll stay with you every step of your way. The only way to protect yourselves from the angry higher powers which are ready to fall upon your head on this empty island is for you to be sincerely sorry in your hearts for what you've done, and you live innocent lives from this time forward. This is the only salvation, this is the only escape from this magic, from these series of events that are going to be upon you. And that said, he vanishes in thunder. Then to soft music enter the shapes again, the shapes that had brought the banquet down. They enter again, dance, and with mocks and mouths, and carrying out the table they depart. So they come, they dance, they come with mocking expressions, ugly expressions, and they take the dinner out. Now Prospero is looking at these events, this event in particular, from a distance, and he's happy with Ariel, the way he has performed his orders. And he praises, in this paragraph, Ariel is being praised for his cooperation. Bravely the figure of this harpy hast thou performed, my Ariel, a grace it had devouring. Of my instruction hast thou nothing bated, in what thou hadst to say. So with good life and observation strange, my meanest ministers their several kinds have done. He says to himself, of course, he is far away standing and looking at all these things, but he's addressing Ariel. Of course, Ariel cannot hear it. But he is talking about Ariel. He says, you've played the role of harpy very well, my Ariel. You were fierce but graceful. You said everything I told you to say in the same lifelike way and with the same attention to details. My lower ranking servants have done what they were supposed to do. So he's very happy. My high charms work, and these mine enemies are all knit up in their distractions. They now are in my power, and in these fits I leave them, while I visit young Ferdinand, whom they suppose is drowned, and his and mine beloved darling. So I'm going to visit Ferdinand and my darling Miranda. So my magic powers are all in full swing, and my enemies are confused and running around in circles. They are under my control, and I'm keeping them in their crazy fits for a while. As I visit Ferdinand and my dear daughter Miranda. Gonzalo is looking at the king, awestruck and shocked at all these creatures and their actions. And Alonso is staring at nothing, absolutely shell-shocked. Gonzalo notices Alonso and he says, in the name of something holy, sir, why stand you in this strange stare? Addressing Alonso, Gonzalo says, for the love of God, sir, why are you standing here staring into space like this? Of course, Alonso is petrified, shocked. And he says, oh, it is monstrous, monstrous. Methought the billows spoke and told me of it. The winds did sing it to me, and the thunder, that deep and dreadful organ pipe, pronounced the name of Prosper. It did debase my trespass. Therefore my son in the ooze is bedded, and I'll seek him deeper than ever plummet sounded, and with him there lie mudded. He says, oh, horrible, horrible. I thought the clouds were talking to me. The winds were singing to me, and the thunder, like an awful organ pipe, roared Prospero's name. It sang about my crimes. Because of my crimes, my son is dead on the ocean floor. I'll go join him there, going down deeper than any anchor ever sank, and lie with him dead in the mud. But Sebastian's and Antonio's reaction is different. Okay, although they were frightened too, but their reaction is drawing their swords out, trying to defend themselves and kill these creatures. And Sebastian says, but one fiend at a time, I'll fight their legions over. He says, I'll fight every one of these devils if I have to, but they have to come one at a time, not together. And Antonio says, I'll be thy second. He says, I will support you. I'll back you up. And they exit from the scene. Now Gonzalo is talking to himself, and he says, and the green part is talking to himself, and the brown part is talking to someone else, the soldiers, of course. All three of them are desperate. Their great guilt, like poison given to work a great time after, now begins to bite the spirits. He says all three men are crazy with despair. Their guilt is finally starting to gnaw or bite at them like a slow-acting poison. I do beseech you that are of supplant joints. Now this part of the paragraph is told by Gonzalo to the soldiers. Okay, to the soldiers. I do beseech you that are of supplant joints, follow them swiftly and hinder them from what this ecstasy may now provoke them to. He says, those who have supplant joints, those who are flexible, those who are fit, please follow those fools, because they might do something stupid. Please prevent them from doing something stupid, and because they are provoked by ecstasy. And Adrian is the commander. Of course, he says, follow, I pray. He says, go to the soldiers, go and follow them and prevent them from acting and doing something stupid further. And they exit. And this is the end of Act 3.